In a world that once celebrated democracy as humanity's greatest achievement, something unsettling is taking shape. From the United States to India, from Hungary to Brazil, from Turkey to the Philippines, the foundations of freedom are shaking. Elections are being manipulated. Free speech is under threat. Public trust, the lifeblood of democracy, is slowly evaporating. Welcome to Nexus. I'm George. Today, we explore one of the most alarming global trends of our time, the worldwide decline of democracy. For decades, democracy stood for hope, the belief that power belongs to the people, that truth prevails through dialogue, not domination. But in the 21st century, the story is changing. Freedom House, the global watchdog, has warned for years that democratic values are eroding almost everywhere. The number of countries becoming less free now outnumbers those becoming more free. So what went wrong? Why are democratic ideals fading, even in nations that once championed them? And what does this mean for our shared future as global citizens? Stay with me as we unpack this transformation piece by piece, nation by nation, and truth by truth. Let's go back in time to 1980. The Berlin Wall falls, the Cold War ends, and the world enters what many called the end of history. It was the golden age of democracy. Nations across Eastern Europe embraced free elections. Human rights movements thrived. Independent media flourished. Democracy became the dream everyone wanted to live. But just 3 decades later, that dream seems to be slipping away. Democracy isn't vanishing overnight. It's eroding quietly, almost invisibly. What began as a wave of freedom has turned into a tide of distrust, division, and disillusionment. Today, we're witnessing democratic backsliding, where governments keep the label of democracy, but not its soul. The question is, why? One of the most powerful forces behind this decline is populism. Populist leaders rise by promising to speak for the people, but they often end up undermining the very systems that protect those people. They call judges corrupt. They brand the media as fake news. They label critics as enemies of the nation. Their message is simple and dangerously seductive. The system is broken, and only I can fix it. Sound familiar? We've seen it unfold from Latin America to Europe, from Asia to the United States. In Hungary, the constitution was rewritten to extend power. In Turkey, opposition figures were jailed. And in the U.S., the storming of the Capitol in 2021 showed how populist anger can shake even the oldest democracy. Populism feeds on frustration, on people who feel unseen, unheard, and left behind. And when that frustration grows, democracy starts to crumble from within. But politics isn't the only factor. The roots go deeper, into economics. Over the last few decades, globalization and automation transformed the world economy. They created enormous wealth, but also enormous inequality. The rich got richer. The middle class stagnated. The poor felt forgotten. Millions watched their jobs disappear, their wages freeze, and their trust fade. And when prosperity stops being shared, democracy stops being trusted. In country after country, citizens now believe politicians serve the elite, not the people. They see corruption at the top and despair at the bottom. That's when they turn to leaders who promise quick fixes, simple answers, and absolute control. Latin America has seen it. Africa has seen it. Even Europe has seen it. Economic pain turns into political anger, and anger is the fuel that burns democracy down. Now, let's talk about technology. Because while the digital age promised empowerment, it also brought new dangers. Social media platforms have become echo chambers, where misinformation spreads faster than truth, and outrage travels farther than reason. Algorithms don't reward accuracy. They reward emotion. They amplify division, not understanding. Fake news, deepfakes, and propaganda have replaced thoughtful debate with noise and confusion. Elections are now fought not only at ballot boxes, but on screens. Propaganda campaigns, bots, and micro-targeted ads shape public opinion long before a vote is cast. Authoritarian governments use technology for surveillance and control. And even in democracies, privacy is disappearing, one click at a time. When truth itself becomes negotiable, democracy loses its anchor. A democracy is only as strong as its institutions, the courts, the press, the parliament, and the rule of law. But across the world, these institutions are being hollowed out. Strongmen leaders don't destroy democracy overnight. They dismantle it slowly, step by step. First, they attack the judiciary. Then they intimidate journalists. Then they change the rules to keep power longer. They still hold elections, but those elections no longer hold them accountable. In Turkey, independent media has been silenced. In Russia, opposition leaders have been imprisoned or exiled. In parts of Europe and Asia, critics say dissent is being crushed through pressure and fear. The strategy is always the same: claim to defend democracy while quietly dismantling it from within. Let's zoom out to see the global picture. According to the Economist Intelligence Unit, the world has been in a democratic recession for more than a decade. Out of nearly 200 countries, fewer than 50 are now considered full democracies. Even traditional strongholds, like the United States, France, and the United Kingdom, have seen their democratic rankings fall due to polarization, disinformation, and political gridlock. Meanwhile, hybrid regimes are rising. Countries that hold elections but suppress dissent, where opposition exists on paper, but not in reality. This erosion isn't isolated, it's universal. And the causes are deeply connected: inequality, division, disinformation, and a collapse of trust. Democracy is being tested not by enemies outside, but by indifference inside. As democracy weakens, authoritarianism is making a comeback. From China's centralized control to Russia's nationalist power play, autocratic systems are being rebranded as efficient and modern. Many developing nations now see authoritarian governance as a faster path to progress. China, for instance, promotes its model as a modern alternative, prioritizing stability and growth over freedom and debate. For leaders struggling with poverty or instability, that model can seem attractive. But history has taught us stability without freedom is fragile. It looks solid until the silence breaks. At the heart of this global crisis lies one simple word: trust. Trust in elections, trust in leadership, trust in each other. And that trust is collapsing. Across continents, surveys reveal the same story. Citizens believe their politicians are corrupt, their media biased, their systems rigged. When people stop believing that their vote matters, democracy dies quietly, not with violence, but with apathy. This collapse of trust fuels conspiracy theories, polarization, and hate. Citizens fight one another instead of demanding accountability from power. And in that confusion, democracy slowly loses its defenders. But despite the decline, the story isn't over. Because across the globe, people are still standing up for freedom. Journalists are uncovering corruption. Activists are risking their safety for justice. Voters are showing up even when the odds are stacked against them. In Ukraine, citizens defend their right to choose their future. In Hong Kong, people marched for autonomy. In Iran, women raised their voices for equality and dignity. Democracy is not perfect, but it remains the only system that allows societies to correct themselves. Technology, too, can be part of the solution, empowering transparency, civic engagement, and truth when used responsibly. The future of democracy depends on those who care enough to protect it, on people willing to act, speak, and believe. So, why is democracy in decline worldwide? Because we forgot that freedom isn't self-sustaining. It requires attention and courage. Democracy isn't a one-time victory. It's a constant commitment. The real danger isn't dictatorship. It's indifference. It's the silence of citizens who stop paying attention, stop voting, stop believing. But as long as voices rise to question, to challenge, and to dream, democracy still has hope. This is George, and you're watching News Nexus. If this deep dive gave you new perspective, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more people can join the conversation about the future of freedom. Because understanding the decline of democracy isn't just about politics. It's about protecting the values that define who we are. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay informed, stay aware, and stay free.